Hello everyone and welcome back to Brian Abroad, the channel where an American, that's me, I'm the Brian part, navigates life in a different country and tries some new and exciting things along the way. If you like this video and you want to keep up with my shenanigans here in China, click that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell so you know when I upload a new video that's somehow more random than the last one. Now today's video is going to be all about how I ended up in the hospital my first week in China, because I'm me. This video might be a little bit different from the last ones. It's gonna be more just like a story time video, you know, just like a cute little story. So get your coffee, get your tea, grab a snack, put your Snuggie on, and settle in. I'm pretty sure my family and friends back in America don't even know about this because I didn't want them to worry about me. So if you're one of those people and this is the first time that you're finding out, sorry. But I'm okay though, I think. I'll get to that later. I want to preface this story by saying that the events from this story happened in October of 2016. So a lot of the details in my life have changed since then. I don't work for the same company. I don't live in the same apartment building, and those things will come up, so like Rafiki says, it's all in the past. So before I came to China for the first time, I was having some, let's call them stomach issues. Everyone who knew about it back home was like, dude, you're moving to China. It's a big step, you know, it's just nerves. On my end, I wasn't really nervous. I was actually really excited to come to China. I felt like, yeah, you know, it's a big step, but you know, once I get there, I'll meet people, I'll be in good hands. I'll figure it out. I'm gonna be okay. But, okay, fine. It's just nerves. It makes sense, right? So I take the longest flight of my life at that time and come to China. For some reason, the company that hired me, whoa, puberty. So for some reason, the company that hired me had me fly from Boston to Washington and then from Washington to Beijing. And they had another teacher who was coming from Washington. They made them fly from Washington to Boston and then from Boston to Beijing. That was probably my first sign that this wasn't going to be the best company to work for, but again, it's in the past. We're done with that now. Now, the way that the company that hired us works is that they hire a large group of new teachers who come all at the exact same time to China. We spend the first 2 weeks together. We're going to the same trainings every day. We're all living in the same hotel. And then the group gets sent to individual centers, usually 2 people to each center all throughout the city. And basically you never see those people ever again the whole entire time that you're in China. To be honest, my earliest memory of the whole experience is being in the airport. A big group of us had just arrived on different planes. We're waiting for some more people to come to the airport so that the driver can take us back to the hotel. One of the guys in the group says to me, you know, we're in China now. I haven't heard anyone in our group say Chinese yet. I wonder if anyone knows how to speak Chinese. And the girl that is behind him, who is not part of this conversation, says, 我会说中文. And the guy who was talking to me was like, what? And she's like, I heard you say that you didn't think anyone here can speak Chinese. Well, I speak Chinese. 我会说中文. And she was really just kind of like arrogant and standoffish, and I felt like maybe that's not the best first impression for you to make when you're meeting new people. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And then she started going on and on about how this was her second time in China, so she knows everything about China and how she's gonna be management in the company one day. Well, guess what? Baby girl left a month later because she couldn't handle living in China. So, bye Felicia. I think there's probably a lesson here somewhere. Like, don't be a know-it-all piece of doo-doo, because if it turns out that you don't actually know it all, then you're just a piece of doo-doo. Now, there's a lot of stuff you need to take care of your first 2 weeks in China. You're getting your bank account set up. You're going to trainings every day. At some point during the training, you're gonna find out which individual center in the city you're going to get sent to. So you're going to the center, you're meeting all the people there, you're getting the rundown there at your particular center. You're looking for an apartment, you're hanging out with the other teachers that you're meeting, and the whole time that I'm doing all of these things, I'm still not feeling well. Our first weekend in China, a group of us went downtown into the city. We had some drinks at a bar. We found kind of like a sketchy looking dumpling place in an alleyway that was still open at like 2 o'clock in the morning, so we ate some dumplings there, which, never a good idea, just it's not, okay? So if you're here and it's 2 in the morning and you see like the lights in the alleyway, don't go into the light, Carol Ann. That night back at the hotel was a rough night for me. I thought I was having an immaculate conception baby. Every time I heard a noise, I thought like the three kings were arriving with gifts for me. Like, I was not okay. The next day, I decided I don't want to do this, but I really need to go to the hospital and figure out what's wrong with me. So the next day was Sunday. I didn't have work, I didn't have trainings, and I did sleep kind of late because I wasn't feeling well, but I figured in the afternoon, I'm gonna go to the hospital and I'm gonna get this taken care of. At the time, I didn't really know anything about going to the hospital here. Our company did give us kind of like a welcome kit that had a list of hospitals in the area that we could go to in case anything happened to us. And I did already know that here in China, if you're sick, you don't need to like go see a primary care physician as kind of like the gateway to other services like back home. You just go to the hospital and you're like, hey, I'm sick, can I see the doctor? And you see whatever doctor's working that day, basically. And it doesn't even cost $2,000 like back home. Yay, America. So I chose the hospital that was closest to us from the list, and I decided, okay, this is the hospital that I'm going to go to. And I decided to go by myself because I didn't want anyone to know that I was sick at this time. I didn't want it to like reflect on me poorly, like, or affect my job in any way, since it's like, oh, we just hired this sickly person. You never know what could happen. So I went to the hospital, or I tried to anyway. My first year in China, I had an iPhone, but it was so old that it like didn't get service anywhere here unless I was on Wi-Fi, basically. So trying to use like map apps and stuff like that to get around the city was really, really hit or miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. Unfortunately, this is one of the times where it didn't work, and once I got off the subway station, I was trying to follow the walking directions on my phone. I ended up in some random apartment community, and I'm walking around, and I'm gonna guess that I was probably the only person that looked like this who lived in that community, because everyone was looking at me like, what is this white person doing here? Which is always, you know, yeah. So I decided to turn around because at this point I was like, this is definitely not a hospital. And I did pass a convenience store as I was, you know, walking into the community. So I figured, I know, I'll go into this convenience store and I will ask someone, first of all, if they can speak English, because at that point, I didn't really know a lot of Chinese. I had taken 2 semesters of Chinese in college, and it was more like for fun at that point because I was an English major and I had room in my schedule, and I knew that I wanted to come here to teach someday. Even though it was 2 semesters, it's one book that they cut in half, like 5 chapters in one semester, 5 chapters in the other, and it's pretty basic. It's like, 你好，认识你很高兴。你是老师吗？我是学生。现在几点？你想喝点什么？你吃饭了吗？我要回家睡觉。新年快乐！我喜欢这个黄色的。I didn't really know how to say, like, where is the hospital? Can you help me get here? Can you give me directions to the hospital? Let alone understand the answer that I was going to get back. Also, I feel like it always looks like I'm having like a rave every time I try to talk to you guys. It's because I'm a teacher and I work with students who are learning English, so I have to use my body language a lot to explain things, and so it always looks like I'm okay, okay? I want to let you guys know that I'm okay. And second, if they do speak English, I want them to tell me, how can I get to the hospital? So I ask in the store if anyone knows how to speak English, and there are like young kids, like teenage kids working behind the desk who I know. Like, I know you're learning English here because I teach English here. Like, everyone's learning English, even if it's a little bit. And I said, does anyone here speak English? And they were like, no. Because a lot of people are shy or they're not confident about their skills, so they don't want to use their English if they don't have to, which I get it. Like, I feel the same way about Chinese all the time, and I also don't have a choice because I live here. So I'm like, okay, fine. I take out the paper from my company that has the hospital on it, and I'm like, do you know where this hospital is? Like, have you heard of this place? Can you help me get there? It was basically like I rewound time back to when people would like pull up next to you on the street with like MapQuest directions printed out and be like, is this Elm Street? And you're like, no, Linda, it's not. Like, obviously you're lost. So they have no idea where the hospital is, but one of the customers in the store, an older man, he was like, oh, I know where this is. Like, I can tell you where it is, I think. So he was like 74 years old and we couldn't really talk to each other, so I actually have no idea what was happening. But his body language was like, oh yeah, like I know this place and I'm gonna show you where it is. What I didn't realize though is that he was telling me that he was going to physically put me on the back of his scooter and drive me to the hospital, which again, we couldn't really communicate with each other, so like to this day, maybe I misunderstood the situation and I just got on this strange man's bicycle and he was like, what am I gonna, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing now. But we went outside the store and he like made room on the back of his scooter for me and he's like, okay, come on. And I was like, no, like that's fine. You can just tell me. But then like we looked at each other like, are you sure about that? Like, yeah, of course I'm not gonna understand what's going on. So I figured that like if my stomach is messed up and I'm sick and I'm going to die anyway, that even if this strange man like kidnaps me and sells me to the circus or whatever, then like I'm probably gonna die anyway, so like who cares? So yeah, I got on the back of this man's scooter, I held onto his jacket, and he drove me all the way to the hospital. The problem with that was that when I got to the hospital, it was very late at this point, and they were basically like, there's not a doctor here who can help you at this time, so you need to come back tomorrow. Which like, at least I know like where the hospital is at this point, but the problem was that the next day was Monday and I think I was supposed to be in training that morning at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So I go back to the hotel, I message the people who are kind of like in charge of all the newbies and I say, listen, I'm having some trouble, I need to go to the doctor, but I am not going to miss any trainings. I just want to let people know in case like I'm late, but I'm really going to try my hardest to make sure that I'm still on time and I'm not missing anything, because again, I don't want this to affect my job and for it to be like, oh, well, you're fired, go back home. So the next morning, I make sure that I'm at the hospital at like 7 a.m. No one speaks any English through the whole registration process, but they tell me like the doctor can speak English. Like, don't worry, the doctor will speak English, okay? Here in China, you pay to get the services done before you get the service, which is kind of good because then there's no like surprise bill that you get in the mail for like $1 million that you need to sell your whole entire Pokemon card collection to pay off. Like, you know the price, if you can pay for it, you pay for it, and then you get the service, and that's it. There's no other bill. So you pay to see the doctor. If the doctor says you need an ultrasound, they'll give you the order form. You go to the cashier and pay for the ultrasound, which also does not cost $2,000. America. And then you go get the ultrasound that day, like right away. You get the results from the ultrasound right away. You take the ultrasound results right back to the doctor, and the doctor will tell you what you need to do next. If you need a blood test, pay for the blood test, get the blood test. Everything happens pretty quickly. If you need medicine, the pharmacy is inside the hospital. You don't need to go to Walgreens or CVS later and have the technician there say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have a prescription for you. And then you have to fight with them like, I know it should be here, while a line of judgmental people gathers behind you and thinks that you're like just trying to get free drugs without a prescription. Like, it's there, it's done, it takes 2 seconds. Anyway, after I registered, they tell me where to sit. Go sit outside this room. There's a little electronic sign on the wall that shows your name when it's your turn to go in. The doctors here, they don't really waste a lot of time examining people because they know right off the bat, like, there's only so much they can do. If you are having trouble inside your body, they're gonna send you to get an ultrasound or some other test. It's not like America where you pay to see the primary care physician and they push on your belly and ask you if you felt down or depressed lately and then send you to a specialist anyway. It's pretty like boom, boom, boom here because there's a lot of people that they need to see. They don't want to waste a lot of time. So when I did finally get to see the doctor was pretty much like, what's your problem? Like, really quick, really to the point. And I'm like, oh, you know, my stomach hurts. I'm having this, you know, this problem. And she's basically kind of like, well, it's probably fine as long as you don't have this symptom. And I'm like, oh, well, I have that symptom. And then she's like, well, I mean, it's probably still fine as long as you don't have this other symptom. And I was like, well, I have that's going on too. And so she's like, well, then we need to give you a colonoscopy and an endoscopy so that we can look inside of your body. In case you don't know what that is, it's when they stick a camera down your throat and up your butt at the same time, and they shake lenses in the middle. This is not awesome news, not just because like this is gonna happen, but because like I just came to China, I don't really have a lot of money and I have no idea how much this is gonna cost at this point. And if you did watch my other video about renting in apartments here, then you already know that like when you come into your apartment, you sign the contract for the first time, you have to pay 4 months of rent when you walk in. And that's probably going to be about $2,000, which maybe for you guys, like it might not seem like a lot of money, like, oh, he doesn't have $2,000. No, bitch, I don't have $2,000. I'm sorry, I'm poor. Now, luckily, I had a lot of Chinese friends back in America whose families were still in China, and I actually had to borrow money from someone's mom so that I could pay for all of this and still be able to rent an apartment later. Shout out to that person who saved my life, but super embarrassing to be like, can my American friend borrow like thousands of RMB from you because he needs to have a camera stuck up his butt? Like, how many people had to know that I was sick at this point in the world? All of them. Did you know? Maybe you did know. You probably already knew. Why am I even making this video? Goodbye. So I scheduled the procedure. I paid for everything. I paid for the, you know, the poo-poo powder that you need to mix the night before that makes you poop all night. And I paid for a couple other tests. They wanted me to do a blood test before the procedure so that they knew I didn't have any like blood diseases that would put maybe the medical staff at risk when they're inside of me. And I also paid for a stool sample. Stool. Which is, you know, when you poop in a cup or you poop and then like scoop it into a cup so they can see if there's anything strange or unusual inside. But I didn't have time the day of my first appointment to get my blood taken and poop in a cup because I had to go to training and I was really determined not to miss anything. So I was like, I'll pay for it now. I'm gonna have to come back tomorrow morning and do it because I have to go to training. So I take my poo-poo powder, I go to training. I'm actually earlier than everyone else somehow. So I'm like, yeah, I'm getting it done. The next day, I go back to the doctor. Same thing, get up early, go to the hospital, get my blood taken so they can test it. Unfortunately, that took a little bit longer than I thought, so I had to do the whole entire thing the next day again to do the stool sample. Except when I went to the hospital to leave the stool sample, God, I'm so tired of having to say stool sample. It was all squatty potties in the bathroom, and like at this point, like me and squatty potties were like, hey, like it's cool. I had diarrhea at the Panda base in Chengdu, and there was only squatty potties, and like once you have that one episode with a squatty potty, then like you're totally cool with them after that. But at this point, like it was my first experience with a squatty potty, and like the stalls were kind of like dilapidated, and I felt like people could like see me, and like I don't know what to do like with your pants, and then there's the cup, and like am I supposed to put the cup like under and try to like Dairy Queen it, or like am I supposed to like scoop? I was overwhelmed. So I was like, okay, you know what? Keep the money for this test. It's a donation. It's not gonna happen. I mean, plus you're gonna be like inside of me. So at that point, like you're gonna know what everything looks like. So that definitely never happened. So at this point, I think it's like October 29th. I've been in China for like 10 days or something like that, 9 or 10 days. On the 30th and 31st, I'm at my new center with the other teacher that they sent. And this person and I are still good friends. We still see each other all the time to this day. And while we're there, you know, meeting everyone, getting the rundown of how our center works, of what the work is gonna be like, some of the teachers who already work there start telling us about their apartment building and saying, you know, you should really come and try to rent an apartment at our building. Our building's really cool. It's really close to work. We're like, okay, cool. So our company has sort of like the assistant who works at our center, who is a Chinese staff member, come with us to the building to help us sign contracts. And we see the building, we like the apartments, cool. We sign contracts. On November 1st, we signed the contract. So we're like, this is great. You know, our apartment situation's all taken care of. At least that's over with. And we decide that on the 3rd, which is the day before we're supposed to be out of the hotel, we're going to take all of our stuff from the hotel and we're gonna move it into the new apartment together because we don't have work on that day. So it's November 1st, I signed the contract. November 2nd is the day of the procedure. I told my boss, hey, just so you know, tomorrow I need to go to the hospital. I'm having this procedure done, you know, just in case anything happens or whatever, like I just wanna let you know. So she decides she's going to make, not ask, but make, the same Chinese staff member that helped us sign our contracts at the building, meet me at the hospital that day and wait in the waiting room for the entire procedure in case, you know, something goes wrong or in case I need help translating something I don't understand because most people there did not speak any English. And I just, like, I felt so bad for this person. I'm sure that she really didn't want to spend her day waiting to see if I die in the waiting room. It was just so weird. And then it was like another person that I had to explain what was happening to me. So I felt like I went from kind of like not wanting to tell anybody that I was sick to having to tell like the people in charge of the training, my friends' families, some of my friends back home, my boss, this staff member who I met 2 days ago who now knows that I'm having like pooping issues and they're gonna stick a camera up my butt. It was kind of embarrassing. And yet now I'm telling literally anybody in the world who might watch this video, so welcome to my poop issue story. All right, so that night I'm back at the hotel, mixing my poo-poo powder with some of this clear pear drink that I found found at the convenience store. They gave me a paper with some translated instructions about like, you know, how to use the powder, what I need to do to prepare myself for the procedure the next day. So I'm looking at the instructions, I'm drinking the powder, I'm going to the bathroom, of course. Cool. The next morning I wake up, I'm dying of thirst, probably because everything in my body was out of my body. And I'm looking at the instructions and it says like, make sure that the day of the procedure you don't have anything except water. And so in my head, that means I can have water. And so I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm really thirsty. Like the thirstiest I've ever been in my life. So I drank like, it's a very small bottle of water. I think I drank like half of it just because I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't drink too much because then it'll have to come out. So I drank like half a bottle of water. I go to the hospital. I meet my poor coworker there who has to sit through this. We're doing the registration for the procedure and the nurses ask me, you didn't eat or drink anything today, right? And I said, well, I mean, I just had, you know, I had some water. And they were like, what? Why would you do that? And I was like, on the paper, it says like you can have water the day of the procedure. I was thirsty. I had like a little bit of water, like what's the big deal? And they were like, well, the big deal is that if you drink water or anything like that or eat the day of your procedure, when you're asleep and we stick the tube down your throat, there's a chance that it could trigger your gag reflex and then you will throw up. And if you're asleep and you have a tube in your throat, you could choke to death. Cool. So why does it say on the paper that I can have water the day of the procedure, huh? Riddle me that, Batman. So the doctors decide that it's probably going to be fine. And they leave it up to me whether or not I want to go through with the procedure. And at this point, I basically tell them I would rather choke to death than have to spend another night pooping my life out. So I decide, YOLO, let's go low. So they put me in the little dress, ooh, little dress, and they put me in the bed, they wheel me into the hallway. I'm like laying in this hallway with other people in dresses in the beds, which is kind of weird because then it's like, ooh, I don't know you, but I saw like a lot of you. And like one of the nurses comes to check on me and she asks like, you know, like how am I? How do I feel or whatever? And I told her in Chinese that I'm nervous. And for some reason, this is like the funniest thing in the world to her. So she's like, oh, you're nervous. And then like I hear her telling the other nurses in the area that like he's nervous and they're like, he's nervous. Like I don't know why it was like such a party for them. That was really reassuring. But I think it was probably because like on paper, right? It's like he's getting a colonoscopy. Like what does he have to be nervous about? She probably didn't know about the whole like choking to death thing. So, you know, I'm laying there, have a little bit of extra time to think about how like I'm gonna die probably. And then it's time for the procedure. So they wheel me into the room and everything is pretty like straightforward and to the point. I don't know if anybody who was doing the actual procedure spoke English, and I guess there probably wasn't a lot to talk about anyway. They had me lay on my side so they had access to, you know, the other end. They put this like bite guard thing in my mouth that had a hole in the middle so they could stick the scope right through. Can you hear me talk when I put my hands in front of my face? Probably not. YouTube 101. The next thing I know, I was waking up in the recovery room like, yes, I didn't choke to death. So I wake up, I'm super out of it because of the anesthesia. I don't know if it's like everyone is like this or just me, but like this has happened a few times in my life where I wake up and I'm like, I'm Mickey Mouse. Like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm not making sense. In America, I had a colonoscopy once and I used to work at a museum and the museum gave us like all these free passes to give our friends and families for like the exhibits and the shows. And I remember like the nurse was waking me up and I was like, do you like museums? And I literally started like handing out museum passes to her. Like, I don't do well with anesthesia. So while I'm in the recovery room, the doctor who does speak English, the one who I saw the first day, she comes up to me with this little vial. She says, your insides mostly look good. We didn't really find any major problems or anything, but we did find this little thing that we like took out of your body. So you need to bring it down to the lab and they're gonna like analyze it, and then in like a week you'll have the results about what it is. And I don't know what it was. It kind of looks like a mushroom. Should I show it to you? Should I show it? Like, I'm gonna show it. If you don't want to look at it, like just don't look at it. It's really not that scary. It literally looks like enoki, like, which we already kind of have a joke about here. We call them see you tomorrow because basically it comes out the same. It's not important. But anyway, I'm gonna show it. So 3, 2, 1, ta-da! Okay, that's enough of that. So bring this down to the lab. It's gonna take like a week for us to process what it is, and then, you know, we'll tell you what we found inside of you. So, okay, cool. I bring it down to the lab. I go out to the waiting room to meet my coworker, and I'm like, oh, you know, it's over. I think it's okay. We should go back and get some rest. Now, little did I know that she had a little bit of a surprise waiting for me. It turns out that while I was getting this procedure done, the building that we had signed contracts with messaged her her because she was the one that helped us to fill out the contracts, and they said, oh, sorry, foreigners actually cannot live at this building, so they need to go. And like, that includes the other foreign teachers who told me about the building, who had already been living there for like a year. Like, everyone has to go, no more foreigners. So here I thought that like, I haven't eaten anything in 24 hours. I'm super messed up from this anesthesia. Like, I'm gonna go back to the hotel. I'm gonna have something to eat. I'm gonna go take a nap. No, instead it's like, hi, you're homeless in China. Love you. So now we have to go to the apartment, which is nowhere near the hospital or the hotel. And we need to like have a meeting with these people and talk about why we're getting kicked out when we literally just signed the lease 24 hours ago. How are you gonna tell me that you didn't know yesterday that we couldn't live there, and like you're just finding out now that like it's not okay? Because that's what's not okay. It's not okay. I just want to let you know it's not okay. I'm not okay with it. Are you okay with it? Whatever. Anyway, I will not go into great detail about what happened in that particular situation. It was definitely kind of like a whirlwind adventure, but we did end up moving into that particular building in the end. This building was close to the center that we were working at, but unfortunately, the center that we were working at is nowhere near the hospital. It's nowhere near the hotel. It's maybe like an hour to an hour and a half back up into the city, because where I live, it's a massive city. I started feeling a lot better after the procedure, and I just never went back to the hospital to get the results, which like, it was 4 years ago and I'm still here, so like, I'm sure it's probably fine, but to this day, I still have no idea what they actually took out of me. I mean, who knows what was wrong with me? Like, maybe I just had a stuck mushroom. Maybe it was the combination of stress and 2 a.m. dirty dumplings. I don't know. Dirty dumplings. I feel like that sounds like a good subscriber name. Hello, my dirty dumplings, and welcome back to Brian Abroad. What do you think? I think it's gonna catch on. I think that's the one. All right, my dirty little dumplings, so that's it for today's video. If you wanna see me go back to the hospital 4 years later and get the results, let me know down in the comments below. If you wanna hear more about my living situation fiasco and how I got kicked out of my building and invited back to my building, and then kicked out of my building and then invited back to my building again that I did actually eventually end up living at, you can leave that in the comments down below. If you have any strange medical stories that you feel comfortable sharing, you can leave that in the comments. You know, just tell me everything. Like, the comments are there for you. Like, I'm not gonna comment on my own videos, but you guys, just like, tell me everything. Like, who are you? Where are you from? What happened to you? What's your credit card number? You know, just whatever you want, just write it down, girl, it's fine. If you enjoyed this story and you wanna hear more messed up stories about my life and my pooping, click the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a comment. Don't forget the credit card numbers. And as long as I'm not sicker than I thought and I drop dead after this video, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.